Another year, huh? They go fast. These are fun days. Hopefully our players I think they truly appreciate getting with the fans and the kids and the people who love it, and I think it'll be a great day for them. But they need a little bit of loving after about 9 practices. They're on day 10, so I think they need some friendly faces and people say some nice things to them, I think. But no, it's been a good camp. Camp is going as far as, I think, physicality. We're learning to be more physical, which you're always going to hear me say, which I think in this game you cannot ever overestimate or underestimate. I think it's something that's a true reality of really good football teams, and I think learning how to compete, learning how to practice, that's one of the things we're learning how to do, and stay physical without injuring each other as much as you can, staying off the ground and those things. But the competition's been good. A lot of new faces are really, I think they're making progress. Been very pleased with the young guys as far as their knowledge of picking up schemes offensively, defensively, special teams wise that are allowing them to use their athleticism. Because I say it's hard to ever judge a guy how he's playing until he really learns what he's doing. These guys have done a really good job of learning. Our coach is doing a good job of teaching. The older upperclassmen, you can see improvement in them, size, strength, and difference in their bodies in a year, and also knowledge of what to do and how to practice and do those things. So I think it's been a good camp so far. We've got a lot of work to do. We're nowhere close where we need to be, and I know that sounds like coach talk, but that's the truth. That's just where we're at right now, and we're really starting, as I say, camp's really just now really begun, I think, in the last day or two, because you get those 6, 7, 8 practices in, you start getting banged, you get a little bruised up, you get a little tired. You don't feel like I'm not getting enough sleep, and you're in competition, so you're worrying about, am I going to play, am I not going to play, all those things. Those are all part of the mental and psychological disposition you got to endure to be able to compete, and that's what we're being able to judge right now. So we have our first scrimmage will be tomorrow night, so another good practice today, hopefully, and then we'll be ready to go.
Questions? Gabe?
Yeah, Coach, how pleased have you been with the development of Carson Green and Dan Moore at tackle now?
Much better knowledge. You can see recognizing things much better that can happen up front, with whether it's a blitz game, a twist game, how they're going to rush, or on short yardage situation, those things. And I think they're both doing a really good job of communicating and and relaying those messages to some of the young tight ends beside them, or in some cases like Kenyon, some of those younger offensive linemen around him. But I mean, recognition up front for the offensive, or getting keys that let everybody else in on what's going to happen up front, because all 5 guys have to be in unison along with the tight end and the backs, and I think they're doing a really good job in the communication department about recognition of things, and you can see the experience.
Down front, Brent.
When you hire someone who has a good reputation, but maybe you don't really know them personally, is there always a little bit of a risk in that? And that being said, obviously it's worked out with Coach Elko. What have you learned about him in the past year?
Well, I think, first of all, he's a relentless worker and competitor himself. I mean, I think that's first and foremost. And, I mean, knowledge of the game is tremendous. But, in a coach, we all know a lot and we do, but, I mean, he's a grinder. I mean, that's one of the things I think I truly appreciate. But he's in there figuring out different ways. And, this is the way we did things. In this position here, we may have more strength here to here, and how to compensate for that, or how to feature another position in his defense that may be a true strength that year. I think he really loves ball. He is a very meticulous. I think he's like myself. I think he's very detail oriented and tries to be perfect on everything and demands it. Has a great presence, and I think his competitive nature allows him to really produce good defenses. I think his knowledge of the game is excellent, but also he's willing to put in the time, the work, and does a great job putting his players by their physical skills in position to be successful.
To the left, Chuck.
I know changes happen gradually over time with the football team, but if you had to go back a year to where you are now and say, what are the biggest differences, what are the biggest change with this football team from when you were starting year one, what would that be?
I think their psychological disposition to understanding what it takes to play at the highest level, and I think we're still getting there. But understanding the true commitment of, we're not trying to play well, we're trying to be successful and win, and what that entitles. I think you think, they should know. No, you don't know until you go to that level. And then there's elite levels where I think we're still in the process of learning how consistent and how relevant that is. But I think we're much, much closer in that, from the psychological disposition of understanding that. And once you understand that, everything else falls in place. I mean, it really does. It all gets back to what do you know you got to do and how you got to do it to the highest level. And I think we're getting to that level, and I think that's the biggest difference in our football team.
Far left, Cease.
Where's Kellen at after 9 practice in fall? Has he exceeded your expectations?
He's sitting back there in the back of the room. That's where he's at. He's right back there. No, but it's very interesting. We're having that conversation. As I had Joe Theismann in yesterday, as a speaker and just watching different things. And I think Kellen is so much farther along in the discussions and the things we talk about, and able to not just learn what I'm trying to say, but conversate and have opinions and about how we should do it, why we should do it, because I think he understands how we're attacking things now and what would be another good, and I say, something that could be good there. You know what I mean? I think it's for lack of a better term, how when your children grow up, as they get older, the conversations they have with you, know what I'm saying? And his, from a football standpoint, a psychological standpoint, I think are really good. And I think that's now allowing him to transition into putting his personality and demeanor on the other players. It's hard to do that when you're still battling for a job yourself and proving yourself. And I think so from that standpoint, he has grown tremendously. I think there's still a lot of growth, because now I think there's stages you go through in a quarterback. One, I don't know what the heck's going on. I'm out there playing on ability. Then I start to figure it out, and I'm in that stage, and I'm doing it off and on, and my athleticism gets me in and out, and I can have a conversation, and I can always say I can trick coach enough to know, because they don't ever, if you don't ever know something, it's like you and your business. You don't want your boss to know. And I think you go in those they know just enough to have the conversation. Oh, yeah, I thought that. Then I think you really start to understand, you start to have success. And then I start, like I think he did, and really understanding why he does things, being able to physically do them and translate his abilities there. And I think there's another level that goes to a championship level that I think it's in the stages of where he's at, of I know it, and then there's so many little nuances of when I do this, even though that's right, that may not, there's a better right within the situation based off where we're at. And I think that is where your truly elite guys come, and I think that's the process of he's starting to get himself to, because he tremendously knows what we're trying to do offensively. He understands how to attack coverage. He understands how to work that leverage to this leverage. He knows the type of throws he's got to make. He knows the toughness he's got to play with and competitiveness. And now there's right and there's more right, and there's wrong and there's more wrong. And then how to be aggressively intelligent in certain areas of the field where I don't want to say you're in the red zone, for instance, to give an example, a red zone, tight zone. You say, well, we got points, and the guy throws a pick, and you say, why does he do that? Well, if he doesn't ever try things, how's he ever going to score a touchdown? Things are tighter, quicker, faster. But at the same time, how you do that with aggressive intelligence and where you miss at and those things, I think that's where he's really growing and understanding, and I think those are the final stages he's getting to. I've been very pleased with his progress. And I'm never, as he knows that, and he'll tell you that I'm never happy. I'm never happy with myself. I'm never happy with him. I think when I call a play, a lot of times if it didn't work, dang it, you should have been able to call something else that helped him better. I'm just as critical on myself, and in those stages. But he's really growing, and I think that's where those elite-minded people are able to take themselves, and they don't take it personally, and they don't take it critically. They just take it that's where we got to go to win. And I think that's because in his heart, he's a true competitor and wants to win. And I think it's fun to watch those guys get there, and I think that's where he's trying to get to right now.
Go to the right, Gabe, and then Suzanne. Then we'll move to the left.
Jimbo, what are you seeing in the battle for the backup quarterback position? Is anybody consistently starting to rise to the occasion?
They're rising each other, and I say that. I'm anxious. We're now, in the last couple of days, really in our I say not scrimmages, but our practices of getting off the field and making it more game-like, where, as I say, that we've taken the pacifier out of their mouths, where the coaches aren't standing around them in the drills and, when they go to do something, always throwing those reminders. We're getting off the field now, making them have to communicate. So I think you're just now starting to see those stages. But all guys have shown the ability to do it. All guys have shown the inconsistencies to do it, and then some days have shown the consistencies to do it. So I'm anxious to see where we go now. As I say, we take the training wheels off and back away and put them on the field, because much of that too is going to be how they relate to the players in the huddle, how the guys believe in who's in the huddle can take them down the field, and you can't do that until we get off the field. And I think that's the stages we're in right now. I'm not unhappy with either. I think they've all made really, really good progress. Now I'm anxious to see if they can do it while we're not standing behind them.
Suzanne, and then it'll be Sam and Courtney wrap us up because we got coordinators.
Hey, Jimbo, on your running backs, do you think you have a featured running back yet? as
Well, I
you
mean,
go
I
into
think
the scrimmage?
Jay Sean's definitely our starting tailback right now. I mean, but he still has to prove that, and there's things he has to get to in a level and to play and do that. But right now, I think he has done that. But I've been, Cabote's been back in that mix and really doing some real nice things. Cordarian and Deneric have really come on, and Isaiah has been a very talented guy in that. Baldry's done a great job at our fullback position in there blocking and doing some things, and then we can mix around. But I would say Jay Sean is out in front, but there's a considerable group of young guys behind him and have really, really unique talents, can do a lot of things. Because the thing I'm excited about, all those guys can not only run, and we're much bigger at that position right now. We got really good size and speed, but the ability to catch the football has also been really good, and we're for the most part been pass blocking pretty well.
And can I ask a follow-up
Yes, ma'am.
on with the running backs? In your career, do you, because Travion had so many carries because he was a great back last year, is that what you want, one back to get all the carries?
Just depends on the team you have.
Okay.
I mean, when I had a guy named Dalvin Cook, it was hard. I mean, I had some other good guys, but man, every time I'm handing somebody else, I'm saying, man, I could be handed to that dude. I mean, I think that goes in cycles. I mean, and where guys are in our rotation, I think, but we have to keep a rotation. I mean, there's no doubt, and you have to create experience there. And I've had it go both ways. For instance, we had some runs with Dalvin there. And when Dalvin was a freshman, we had Carlos Williams, who was a really good player. And then the national championship year that one year, even though Freeman was the featured back and had 1,000-some yards and over 12, 14 to whatever it was, we had three backs. Him, Carlos, and Wilder all had 10 touchdowns or more, all three guys. So, I mean, there's different roles, different scenarios. And also, you'll have a guy who's more of a short yardage red zone back who's a bigger, powerful guy maybe or something. And what sets you're in, does it feature that we're in heavy sets, in other words, with a lot of tight ends and backs where a bigger back is conducive, or are we in the red zone where we think we can keep things spread out and a more elusive guy could be a factor? I mean, it all depends on the scheme of the game it goes in and how you use them. But I'm gaining a lot of confidence in our younger guys every day. I really am, and I think, which we have to.
To the left, Sam, and then Courtney, you'll wrap us up.
Jimbo, what kind of impression has Kenyon Green made since he's been here?
Done really well. And I think, he's mixed in and run with the ones right now at times. And right now he's doing that inside at guard. We moved some guys around in there. But very powerful, very athletic. And again, most guys, like I say, and this has nothing to do with intelligence. Don't get me wrong here. A lot of you young guys that have ability to learn and figure out the position quickly allows them to play. And he's doing a really good job of that mentally. And he's a mature kid above his age in that he deals with success and failure really well for a young man. And, sometimes you get frustrated as a kid. You feel the pressure and you want to do well and you have success. You feel real good about yourself because you should and because you're wanting to show confidence. And when you fail, you don't go in the tank. He's pretty even-keeled for a guy his age and how he's competing. But he is a very talented guy and playing really well, I think, right now for where he's at.
Courtney, was that your question?
Yeah, I guess just following up with Sam, what's a realistic expectation for him?
We'll see. I don't want to put expectations on a guy that are too high because they can fail. But I'm just smiling. That's all I'm going to say. I'm smiling. He's got a chance to be a really good player, but we got to let him be. See how he does when, as I say, the training wheels come off and we get away and the other things go on. But been extremely pleased where he's at, and he will definitely should help us drastically this year and tremendously.